Hello, all my aliens, and welcome to the call center at the end of the universe. I am your host, the CS Guy, and this is the Water Cooler Review, Season 1, Episode number 2, The Punisher from 2004. This was starring Tom Jane as Frank Castle and John Travolta as Howard Saint. That's your main two. They did generally kept with the original story that we've seen later in the Netflix series. They did make a few changes on it. John Travolta did play an excellent bad guy as Howard Saint. It starts off very similar, like most Punishers do, with a gun deal that goes bad, and then the process, one of the two Saints' sons gets killed. Howard Saint finds out later about Frank Castle and his inability to die, and his wife comes up with a great plan. Well, if he can't die, his family can die. So they decide to murder his whole family. The Castle family, we joined them at a family reunion that was being held down in Puerto Rico. It was like they mentioned, it was like the first time we've been able to get together and all together in 5 years. We had a really touching moment where Frank's son buys him a present. He opens it up, and you have your first classic introduction in this movie to the Punisher logo. He pulls out this black shirt with the white skull. Bad guys show up. They kill the whole family and try to blow him up. And we know Frank all too well. He's hard to kill. He gets rescued by a man who locals refer to as like an introvert. This guy really gave a real strong Luke Cage feeling. I know it's not, but I had a real strong Luke Cage feeling on it. And he actually says one of the best lines in the movie right before Frank's about to leave and go to Miami to get the Saints. He's like, God be with you. And Frank replies, well, God is going to have to sit this one out. Before he left the island in this scene, you had that Punisher look with the long hair and the full beard. I call it the badass Punisher feel. This is a Punisher look I really love. I feel it fits the character a lot better. The huge massacre with the killing of the Castle family, and even the explosion at the end to kill Frank, they did that very well, cinematically and graphically. It was really strong visual effects from top to bottom, this whole movie. I will admit that. So we joined Frank in Miami. He's trying to get even with Howard Saint. We have Frank clean shaven. Now, I know how this is typically how he looks. And maybe since my first real introduction to the character is the Netflix series, I'm just not a big fan of clean shaven Frank Castle. How does a baby bottom smooth face strike fear in your hearts? That's my opinion. He runs into one of the Saints' henchmen. He captures him, hangs him upside down, and starts to torch him. And another great scene that I haven't seen in a long time. He takes this excelling torch. He talks about how it's like 2,000, 4,000 degrees or something like that. And one of the first things that you're going to lose instantly is all your nerve endings, and then it smells like burning meat. So he's holding this, he has a torch, and the guy's hanging upside down, and you see in this little tray beside him there's a steak, and he's using the torch to cook the steak, and then he has his popsicle, and he takes a popsicle and touches the guy on the guy's back, and he's like, ah, and screams, and he kind of keeps doing it. It was really it was really cool. And then, like, at the end, when he gets the information, he sticks a popsicle in the guy's mouth, and the guy has this look like, oh, no. They end up working together. He ends up Frank setting up Howard for this. I really enjoyed it. It showed that Frank Castle has a heart. So Howard Saint, finds out that Frank is still alive, that his one son didn't kill him off in Puerto Rico like everybody thought. He decides to bring in a specialist for Tennessee. So we enter a scene with the diner. This was at the scene too. You had the girl as well as TJ and Bumpy. That's where she worked. You know, they're eating. This guy walks in dressed in black, carrying a guitar case. Really strong Johnny Cash kind of vibe. You know, he pulls out and he plays this song. This is one of the best songs I have heard in a while. And, you know, he goes, well, Frank, I wanted to play this song for you. I wanted you to hear this song that I'm going to play at your funeral. And he leaves. When Frank had got back to Miami, they show some time like he was working on this Trans Am or Mustang. He was like pinning steel, you know, windshield and everything else. But they forgot to pit steel on the back windshield and reinforce the back. You know, they get in a chase. Frank car like flips. The back windshield gets shot out. You know, I had a little bit of small problem with that. You know, and then, you know, Frank gets out and the guy, you know, has his gun and all he had was his switchblade knife. And the guy goes, well, you don't bring a knife to a gunfight. And as soon as he says it, he presses a button on the switchblade knife, and the knife shoots out and kills the guy. I was a little disappointed that this character, the Johnny Cash kind of killer, he had a really good feel. We only saw him for a very short time. That was fine, though. The short time he was in it did really good. Then we kind of we get introduced to Kevin Nash, the actor. He's playing this Russian big guy thug. I do want to give the director a lot of credit. They gave him no speaking lines. They knew he couldn't act. Also, surprisingly, this actually ends up being one of the longest fight scenes in the whole movie. Also, you know, I thought they really could do a better job of making Kevin look more intimidating rather than just big. The only time that he did look scary, when he's got some hot water thrown in his face, and that's when I was like, oh no, I was terrified of him, and then he dies. The real cringe-worthy moment of this movie came when, you know, after Frank had killed the Kevin Nash character, him and the girl hides, and some of the Saints henchmen, they come back. TJ, which is the guy with all the piercings, and Gumpy was in Frank's apartment, and they kind of interrogate him, and he pulls his pair of pliers, and he's trying to get TJ to talk, and starts ripping out the earrings, as you can see from the reaction video. We were a little disturbed by that, but I thought that, you know, I give TJ a lot of credit. He, you know, even going through all those piercings being ripped up, he never cracked and gave up Frank. I would have spilled my beans in a heartbeat, as you saw from that reaction video. My biggest issue with this movie was this. All movie, since Frank had been back in Miami, they pretty much set up this apartment floor. At the one end of the hallway, you had the one girl. In the middle, you had the apartment that had TJ and Gumpy. And then right up into the end, you had Frank's apartment. All within about 30 feet of each other in just the hallway. And they show this many times throughout the movie. Well, during the Kevin Nash fight scene, at one point in the middle apartment, which was TJ's and Bumpy's, that wall gets knocked out in the back, and when you look through the wall, you see across the yard and grass into like another building. And there's Kevin Nash and Frank Castle fighting. They were fighting in his apartment, so it was like, come on. That was my big issue with it. You spend the whole movie setting up close proximity between the three, and then for this big fight scene, mind you, this is the longest one-on-one fight scene, you have it like across the way, 300 yards away. But that was fine. So basically, you know, Frank basically gets hired to kill his other son and his wife. And then you have one of Howard Saint's best lines. The son goes, well, is mom coming? And he's like, well, your mom had a train to catch. Well, you also pushed her off the bridge and she got run over by a train. During the final fight scene, when you had Frank going against Howard, there at the end, you had that classic Punisher moment. He blows up all the cars. The camera goes out all the way to the sky, and all the cars being exploded. They make the burning Punisher face logo. Was very good. Very, very cool. This movie, graphics was good. Story was good. Everything else. We are going to give this a 7.4 water cups out of 10. I definitely would recommend it. And yes, indeed, we did survive the Punisher and made him our friend.